Chapter 1. The War That Ended a Kingdom, 1337 to 1453. In our timeline, the 100 Years' War was a series of intermittent conflicts between England and France over control of the French throne and territorial dominance. But here, history takes a hard turn around the mid-15th century. The turning point is the Battle of Castillon, 1453, where the French victory was decisive in our timeline. In this alternate version, French military reforms under Charles VII go even further. Instead of simply expelling the English from French territories, Charles launches a full-scale invasion of southern England. The French deploy cannons, siege engineers, and professional infantry units that had proven effective in reconquering Normandy. Joan of Arc survives longer and becomes a symbol of a pan-French crusade against the English monarchy, inspiring support from Scots, Welsh rebels, and disenfranchised English nobles. By 1460, French forces capture London. The Plantagenet dynasty is overthrown, and surviving members of the English royal house flee to Ireland or the Holy Roman Empire. France establishes direct rule over England, Wales, and large parts of Scotland. Ireland is left semi-autonomous under French oversight. Chapter 2. The Dual Crown Era, 1453 to 1600. The unification of France and the British Isles under a single monarchy, La Couronne Unie, the United Crown, creates a superstate that reshapes European power balances. French becomes the administrative language across the Isles. Latin remains used in church and academic contexts, but English is demoted to a regional dialect. The aristocracy begins speaking a dialect closer to Anglo-French, while commoners retain various English regional tongues. The French crown restructures governance. The Duchy of Britannia is established, comprising England, Wales, and Scotland. A royal governor in Londres, formerly London, enforces edicts from Paris. English Parliament is dissolved and replaced by a concile provincial Britannique, with limited power. Resistance simmers. Rebellions in the north of England and Highlands are brutally crushed. The Tudors never rise. The Wars of the Roses never happen. With England secured, France avoids the internal turmoil of other European states and instead focuses on expansion. The Spanish kingdoms unite as usual, but their maritime rivals, the English, no longer exist as an independent force. France dominates early transatlantic exploration. Chapter 3. Colonial Hegemony, 1600 to 1800. By the 1600s, the Franco-Britannic Empire controls most of Western Europe and uses its consolidated wealth to fund massive colonial ventures. Nouvelle France, New France, extend from Canada down the Mississippi to Louisiana and the Caribbean. The American East Coast, historically English territory, is now French from the outset. Cities like Boston, New York, and Charleston bear names like St. Louis du Nord and Port Dauphin. The English language begins dying out in the New World. French is the colonial lingua franca. The Enlightenment unfolds under a unified Franco-Britannic intellectual sphere. Philosophers like Voltaire, Rousseau, and Diderot are taught in schools from Edinburgh to Marseille. Universities in Oxford and Cambridge become colleges royaux under the French system. There is no English Bill of Rights, no Glorious Revolution, and no Anglican Church. Catholicism remains dominant under the Bourbons. Protestantism is suppressed early in the Isles, leading to religious exiles fleeing Prussia and the Netherlands. With no English competition, France becomes a dominant naval power, building a pan-oceanic trade network. The Dutch and Spanish try to resist, but the Franco-Britannic alliance is too economically and militarily advanced. Chapter 4. Revolutionary Collapse and Imperial Realignment, 1789 to 1870. The French Revolution still erupts in 1789, but with higher stakes. The Franco-Britannic Empire has become bloated, unequal, and stretched. Taxation in the British provinces is severe. Food shortages strike Londres and Paris alike. A mass uprising begins in both Paris and Londres, where a growing number of urban French-British citizens call for republican reform. The monarchy is overthrown in 1792 across all territories. A Republic of the Franco-Britannic Union is declared. Former royalist loyalists in Ireland and northern Scotland attempt to declare independence, but are defeated by revolutionary forces. Napoleon Bonaparte still rises, but now as a unifier of not just France, but the entire Atlantic Empire. His conquests reach deeper into Europe, but he also focuses more heavily on industrial development and administrative reform across both the continent and the British Isles. After Napoleon's defeat in 1815, the Franco-Britannic Republic is not restored a monarchy. Instead, a centralized Republican federation is formed, similar to the later European Union, but centered entirely on Paris and Londres. Chapter 5. Industrial Powerhouse and Global Reach, 1870 to 1945. The Franco-Britannic Federation industrializes aggressively in the 19th century. Rail lines, telegraph systems, and shipyards link Britain, France, and colonial holdings. The Imperial Colonial Code, passed in 1875, creates standardized rule across Africa, the Caribbean, and Asia. There is no Victorian Empire. Instead, the wealth and industrial might attributed to Britain, in our timeline, is directed through a Franco-centric global empire. World War I and II unfold differently. In World War I, 1914 to 1918, Germany still rises as a challenger. The unified Franco-Britannic Federation fights against the German Empire, Austro-Hungarians, and Ottomans. With overwhelming manpower and colonial support, France-Britain wins more quickly. By 1916, World War II never happens. Hitler never rises, as Germany never faces the same crushing defeat and hyperinflation. Instead, the 20th century becomes a global standoff between the Franco-Britannic Federation, the United States, and a rising Soviet Russia. Chapter 6. The World in 2025. In the present day, the Franco-Britannic Union is a multilingual, federal superpower consisting of Metropolitan France and Britannia, formerly England, Wales, Scotland, Normandy, Ireland, Nouvelle France, a continent-spanning former colony, Afrique Occidentale Uni, Indochina Oriental, Antilles Françaises. Its population is over 600 million. The federal capital is shared between Paris and Londres, connected by maglev train through an expanded channel tunnel. English exists, but as a regional dialect spoken in rural areas or cultural circles. The dominant global language is Francois Universal, a reformed French simplified for global commerce, law, and diplomacy. The United States still exists, but developed with more Spanish influence and a French-speaking Northeast. Its global power is second to the Franco-Britannic Union. The monarchy is long gone. A technocratic council governs from the Hotel de l'Union, a mega-complex straddling both banks of the Thames, where the Eiffel-style Tower Unity looms over what was once Westminster. In schools, students in Edinburgh, Birmingham, and Rouen all study Voltaire and Napoleon, and Joan of Arc as part of the same shared cultural heritage. The 100 Years' War ended not with withdrawal, but with conquest. And from that conquest, a new empire was born, one that reshaped not just Europe, but the entire modern world.